Hi guys, what I'm going to do today is show you 4 or 5 different levels of color changing. What do I mean by color changing? Well, if you have a figure or a prop or an item of clothing or anything in your scene, there are often times when you need to change the color of that item. That's obvious. The simplest way to do that is using the material file that comes with the item often and simply double clicking it or dragging it to change the color to one of the preset values. But what if the color you want is not one of the preset values, or it's an item from Dad's where you have to buy separate color clothing items as a separate purchase, or it's an item that simply that you simply want a color that's not one of the provided presets. Well, there are lots of ways we can do that. So we're going to start off by looking at this guy. He's Michael 4, and he's wearing a clothing item called Hero Captain. And if we look at this in the material room, we're going to spend a lot of time in the material room today. You'll see that this item here is simply a plain color. Now that's a good thing and it's a bad thing. The good thing is that it's very easy to change the color simply by changing the diffuse color here, and you'll see his shirt now has changed to yellow or blue or whatever you want there. But it's a bad thing because the shirt has no texture, no nothing, no detailing that makes it look realistic. So if you render that, that's just a flat color. Very, very rare to see that done. So the next level is to go in the material room to the presets that have been provided with that item. So we've got Hero Captain, and here you see they provided 2 colors, a long sleeve cold shirt which is black and a pewter shirt which is a light grey. Very, very unimaginative colors, but let's just add the pewter shirt. And what that's done now is it's added a texture and a grey colour to it. Now grey is a nice neutral colour, but it's not the colour that almost anybody would choose in a scene. But if I just give that a quick render here, just an area render. So generally I render low for you guys so that you're not where, there we go. So you can see texture here, texture here. So there's 2 things going on here. There's a material texture as a diffuse color. If we go into the material room and analyze it, you'll see here that so we've got Captain shirt fabric, we've got a grey cotton fabric color, and down here we've got multiple maps. There really ought to be a single click mode that spreads these out. So we have a blend going into the alternate specular. We have a copy of that. Oh no, it's a different map, a weird lighting map going into the it's a displacement, so that's giving the bump probably for the stitching and the collar and stuff like that. And then we've got a bump map here. So the bump map is giving the look of the material here. The displacement is almost certainly giving this stitching here. It's kind of displacing this. Unfortunately, displacement doesn't work out of the box with Superfly render. What we'd have to do is increase the resolution of this mesh to a ridiculous amount. So it would be better just to turn that stitching onto another bump layer. But anyway, so you can see it's given this texture a bit of depth. Now, supposing I didn't want that color then. So even though it's got this material map plugged into the diffuse color, simply changing the diffuse is enough to change the underlying color. So there's a Kermit green color. And when I render that, you may see some detail, you may not, depending how hard the bump is working. when you have what was basically a bump map. Oh, that looks pretty good, yeah. So see this weird lighting specularity weirdness here and the shininess. That is the blend node plugged in that's doing that. If we go in and I'm just going to unplug that, or I could turn it down as I've showed you before. See the reflectivity here in Superfly is just way too reflective. I'll just turn that down to 0.1 to show you. The trouble with reflectivity is that when it's too high, it tends to make the colours look white. So you actually lose detail. So here's a pure colour now, and you'll see how much nicer that looks if you just compare that to the previous render. So I can just do here, the slide here for a comparison, one half to the other. And you can see just by turning that specularity or that blend node down, now the true detail. I mean, it's some cotton. Who the hell puts specularity on cotton? But or wool, you know, whatever. Anyway, so we've changed that color now by, first of all, by loading a predefined material from the material room. In the old days, if you have any legacy stuff, they didn't have material room. They had what was known as map pose files. The material room didn't come into Poser until a later version. I'm going to say 7 or 8 maybe. Prior to that, there was no material room button here. All of the materials had to be applied to the pose room, and to the user they looked the same. But to the content creator, there was a quite a lot of messing around. You needed a program called map pose creator, or you'd do it manually and create a map pose that applied these textures. It was a lot of messing around. Nowadays you can just apply a single material in the material room that applies a single shader or an entire set of materials. What do I mean by a set of materials? And I'm sounding like a lawyer asking a lot of questions. Well, this shirt here is an example of a nicely designed piece of clothing, albeit one with not many material presets with it. And you'll see it has different material zones. It has a collar, it has sleeves. And if we go up here in the material room, you'll see, if I click on the chest to pick up the root material, you'll see it has here cuffs, the shirt, and the neck. So what it means is that you can give that a lot more customization when you add materials. Okay, so that's the really easy way of doing materials. So the next level here, this figure here is Victoria 4. She's wearing Badlands, and she again only comes with 2 different color options. It's a fairly simple material, fairly simple piece of item, so I would have thought maybe they could do a few more, but whatever. So supposing we want green, well, there isn't a green default, but what we could do is the little trick that I've showed you a couple of times. If I go into the material room, pick up the texture of this clothing item here, and you'll see here that this creator has added a bunch of extra nodes as if she was going to do some clever color stuff on it, or he, and then they never did any. So in actual fact, I could just wire this image map directly into the diffuse color end node, and it would make no difference, and these serve no purpose whatsoever. So okay, don't crash please, Poser. Okay, I'm back. So there was a hard Poser crash there. I've noticed that Poser crashes often when, not often, but occasionally when you're deleting stuff, especially on busy scenes. So what I was talking about was a way to change the color of this Badlands bodysuit. And I was in the material room here, and there are some extra nodes wired in here which serve no purpose. They've wired in a color math node here that multiplies white and white. This image map here with this blender map here, which is doing nothing whatsoever, and you still end up with exactly the same color. So I'm going to try and delete those. Hopefully it won't crash this time, and hardwire that into there. So there's a more sophisticated way that we can change this color. That the way that was wired was kind of set up as if it was going to offer more options to change the colors, but then the creator never actually did it. But we're going to do something similar. So if we add a node here, we can add math nodes which change the color. So the simplest of these is a HSV node, and we just wire that into the color there, wire the output here. So now it's going through this node, and HSV stands for hue, saturation, and value. Value is brightness, saturation is the amount of a color, so less goes towards gray, more goes towards very, very vivid, and hue is where the color is on the color wheel. So for example, if we want to change this yellow, we just move this hue value around, say 1.4. I can't remember what there you go, 0.14. Now it's red. 0.3. 0.7. As you see, you can just mess around with that value and you can make it less or more bright here. So this is just a really easy way to change the colors of a more complicated texture. But it works really well on this figure because when you change the hue value, it doesn't affect greys, blacks, and whites. Anything on the grey scale are not altered by that. But supposing we were looking at something more complicated like this top here, when we change the HSV on this, I'll just quickly give you a demonstration. It actually changes all of the colors in the image, and that can be a real nuisance. Sometimes you want a more precise color change. So what am I doing here? I can't talk and do stuff. So we wire that to there, that to there. So now if I change this hue value, I don't know, 0.14. Okay, was that the right thing? Yep, tank. Wires into there. Okay, 1.4. I can't remember what the value range is. Okay, that's not doing a lot. Into there, out to there. I thought there might be an alternate. Oh, right, okay. It's also wired into the physical surface, so I'd also have to change here. So, right, this is going to become important later. So, the creator of this clothing on La Femme has done a really nice thing. The physical surface will render specifically on Superfly. So you will see here, these are called root nodes, and root nodes are the rendering engine you might think of that's going to be used. Although it's going to use a Superfly render engine, this is designed, physical surface and cycles surface are designed specifically to render what's known as physically based textures. So they obey real world physics. And so this gives you the option when you're rendering in Firefly, which is the old renderer for Poser, which kind of simulates physics but doesn't do the actual physics. You select this and the Poser surface. When you're doing PBR, physically based rendering, you choose Superfly. So here, this plugs into here. So what I really need to do is to have this plugged into here as well. But why would you have two different render nodes? And this is a nicety of whoever designed this. You'll see now that's changed immediately. Yeah. I'll just change that to say 0.8. Just as you can see this changing here. So just very quickly see that the disadvantage is that it changes every single color. So that's, you know, on a very vivid color here, that can be a nuisance. You might just want to change the blues or the greens or something like that. But why would you have two different root nodes? Well, this is the designer showing their class here. When you only have physical surface or cycles, you don't get a color preview. you just get black or white. It used to be white, now it's black. And it makes it very difficult to see what your final scene is going to look like in the preview. But by having a duplicate in the poser surface, not only does it mean that this can be rendered in Firefly or Cycles or Superfly, but it also means that you get a preview here. So that's really nice. So just hold this thought about a HSV or math node changing all of the colors, which might not be desirable. And we'll just go back to Michael here. So Michael has a skin texture, and Michael, what I did with Michael was I created a texture, I believe. Let's have a look. Okay, now I'm going to apply a texture that I made myself. Okay, so this is a Superfly texture, but again you'll see that it has a poser surface and the poser surface 2 this time. So this texture, if I take that out, that was the texture that I created, which is basically I started with a Michael Elite texture and then just put my own stuff in. But when you use Easy Skin from Snarly Gribbly, what it does is it creates a second node that works well in Superfly. And you'll see here's the Superfly node. And a nice little trick you can do is to just wire in or change the color of the base node here to create, say, a suntan effect. So here's his face here. Let's just zoom in so as you can see his face a bit better. And if I change the root color here to something darker, I'll go down this skin tone thing here. And now I'm going to do the same on this. So this is the Firefly renderer, so it's not affecting the figure. And now let me see if we've got anything wired. Yeah, so it's actually wired into alternate diffuse as well. So to make this work, I'm actually going to have to change this color, and I'm just going to pick up from there. And I'm going to do the same on these. And you see there straight away his skin color has changed. Now, this is a really nice way of just creating, say, a Latino character or suntanned character, something like that. You can even do it to create an extreme example. If you don't have if you have a texture that you kind of like the texture, but it's not a black texture, you can even make it look like black skin. It's not perfect, but let's go back to this. So, oh, actually, so no, I'll go back to this because I want to show you something now. So we've determined that there are times when using a math node doesn't give us the granularity or the specificity of being able to change just parts of a texture. Supposing, for example, that this here was say yellow and blue. When we did the HSV, the blue would have changed and the yellow, and you might not want that. You might like the blue trim, but this, supposing it was like a Starfleet uniform or something, so you have the details are the same for every single rank, but the color changes according to if you're in science or medical or command or whatever. So that's when Photoshop comes in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this figure, this La Femme, and I'm going to go into the material room. So this is the texture that I want to change with. It's called Fresh Tank, and I'm going to just pick up the path to that. So I just click on there as if I was going to change it, and here's where it is on my hard drive. So I now pick up that path there, and now I'm going to open Photoshop. And although it's already in my recent, I'll go through the process just to show you. I'll do open, and then I just paste that path into there. And now you'll see actually there were other color presets, but that's not the point. Now I open that texture there. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. The first thing that I can do is just simply Control U, hue saturation, exactly as we did before, but you see it changes everything. That's exactly the same as the HSV slider in Poser, except it calls a value lightness here. But we could also limit that to only, say, blues. So here now, when I change the hue, see the magenta stays the same, more or less, but only the blues change, and I can change the saturation, whatever. But there's an even more, sorry, I'm going to use the word again, an even more granular way of doing it. I'm going to do select, and I'm going to do color range. So here, I could do just magentas. And what I've got here is I've set the preview to a white matte. Obviously, I'm in Photoshop here. By default, I think it's set to none, so you can't tell that you've selected anything. So a nice white matte here, so you can see what's selected here. And I could choose any group of colors here. So I've chosen only the magentas. So now when I do, I'm going to go back to my hue saturation because it's a quick way to change things. It's only going to affect things that are in that selection range. See, only the magenta is changing now. So I've created a color sub-selection within that main selection, and I could Control Shift I. Now I'm only selecting and altering things which are not magenta, in theory. Okay, that's not actually quite working, but okay, let's go back to our color selection and color range. So another way of doing that, so we've selected magentas, but I could turn that to sampled colors. Okay, why has that gone really weird? Okay, Control D to make sure I don't have anything selected. Select color range, sampled colors. Okay. Right, okay, let's just sample that magenta. There you go. So I've got the magenta sample. This time I want everything that isn't magenta. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invert the selection. So now I'm selecting all the blues and stuff, but I'm going to change the fuzziness. The fuzziness is how close to the selected color. So if I click on a magenta bit here, which is now white, the fuzziness determines how similar to that color it has to be part of the selection. But it's inverted, so it's everything that isn't what I clicked on. And now hopefully when I do Control U, you'll see, there you go, everything that isn't magenta, so the magenta stays the same color. If I press, I think, Control H, oh, not there. Cancel. Look, you don't need to do anything. Right, okay, sometimes Photoshop can be really annoying. Control Z to cancel. If I press Control H, it hides the selection. So the selection is still there, but it doesn't have those annoying marching ant marquees there. So now Control U, and now when I change this, the magenta kind of stays where it is. It's hard to tell because your eyes is your perception of color is changed by the things around it. But I think that this core bit is staying the same, like that. Okay, and one more thing that you could do is just make a selection of your object. So let's go to Badlands this time. So this time I want to select only the blue. So I could draw a marquee around the blue here, carefully drawing around it like that. Then when you get into the little detail areas like here, I would zoom right in. In fact, that's not been made very well because they didn't do that and they put black on the blue there. I'd zoom right in so I've got that precise. But a far better way again, Control D to deselect that. A far better way again is just simply to select color range, and I click on a blue, and then I select the fuzziness so that it gets, okay, that's inverted. So I want the blue to be selected. I don't want all this selected ideally. So I'm going to change the fuzziness till it doesn't pick up. There you go. So it's just refining the mask. And now that's a much more accurate way of doing that. Actually, I could still have increased the fuzziness to pick up the stitching and stuff like that. And then I could use my trick that I used before, Control U, and I could mess around with the hue here until that goes green. There you go, you've got a green color now. And then I would simply save that. I would probably save it as a Photoshop document, because Poser enables you to import Photoshop documents, because then that retains the editability of the document. Supposing I had layers going on here, supposing I did Control C, Control V. Now what I've done is I've created a layer here of that blue, which I'll just demonstrate here. See, I've got a layer made up only of that. Supposing I wanted to do something with that, use it to make shadows or something. By saving it as a Photoshop document, it retains full editability. And then I can just go back into my Poser and browse and load that change thing that I've done. And one final example, if I go back to Michael. So I used the just changing the diffuse color to change his skin color here. So if I go in here and pick up his face color, I quite like parametric changes. So a parametric is when you use a mathematical trick in the program to create a change. So here I didn't change the actual bitmap, I just change the values that the program applies to the bitmap. But there are times, especially if you want to interoperate with other programs, when parametric things like this easy scatter, all of these nodes here will not transfer if you wanted to go into, say, into Blender. It just loses them. All it will take is the textures and the root node, and everything else will be lost. So there are times, and I'm just going to apply this now, when you simply want to change the base texture. So this was changed in Photoshop. So exactly the same as I did before in Photoshop, where I just did HSV and I just lowered the darkness value just to create this kind of Latino looking skin. And now if I go back to here, it's applied to the face and the lips and the ears and the hands and blah, blah, blah. But you don't apply changes to eyes. You don't apply changes to the inner mouth. They tend to be consistent, even when the external skin is the same. To quote the phrase, we're all the same color underneath the skin. And you'll see that gives us a nice suntanned look. You could use a transparency map to give like a tan line as well, according to if they're wearing shorts or a bikini or whatever. I think I've pretty much covered it all there, guys. So we've gone from simply changing diffuse colors to selective subcolor changing in Photoshop using color range selection. Hopefully that gives you some more advanced ways of changing the colors of your components in your scene, and I will speak to you again next time.